Where's Pumpkin?
Hello. Yes, Pumpkin. Bob was just asking me, where is Pumpkin? He's downstairs, wrecking a box, the last I saw. Yeah, whenever we leave a box down there, he instantly shreds it. I don't know why. If anyone knows why cats have a beef with boxes, let me know. But yes, welcome again to another Wednesday stream. Lots of people here. Thank you for coming. And thank you for coming, Bob Ziroll. Yay. Yes, excellent to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Exciting. Yeah, lots to talk about. If you have a question for Bob, do leave it in the chat. Looking forward to sharing all your questions with him. I have a few to get us started. Yeah, let's have a look. So my first question is actually about your brand new API course on Scrimba. I say API course is actually part of the front-end career path. Yeah, can you tell us a bit about this?
Yeah, for sure. I was really excited to record this because it's the first time really in the career path that you get to reach outside of your own computer. Anybody who's watched, I think I talk about it in the intro, but when you're first learning, a lot of the stuff you do is just kind of stuck in your own little environment right there on your computer. You're saving data to like an array in your code. Well, that's about it, right? You can't like get the weather or do any of the cool millions of things there are to do on the internet because you're stuck inside your own computer. So the fun thing about teaching the APIs course is it just opens up the whole world. It makes it so that, I guess for anybody who's not familiar, an API, an application programming interface, is just a confusing acronym that means using somebody else's code. And data. And so the whole course is dedicated to asking other computers to give them the data that they specialize in. Sometimes it's silly, like the Pokemon API or the Star Wars API or something. Or sometimes it's super useful, like we go into or we reach out to a cryptocurrency API and get cryptocurrency data and weather data, Unsplash to get cool photos for backgrounds and stuff like that.
Nice.
Yeah. And then there's, like you just opened the whole section on asynchronous JavaScript, I think is kind of eye-opening too, because we talk about callback functions and promises, and a little bit on async await, which is one of those things that you've used up until this point when you're learning JavaScript, but may not have fully understood. So I try to go a little more in depth on those things.
Fantastic. Yeah. So anyone who wants to learn some more about APIs, I strongly recommend you checking that out. And although it is part of our front-end developer career path, you don't have to do the whole career path if you already know some of the other stuff. You just go straight to module 7, which Bob has made. Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Nice comment from here. Sandy says, Bob, I love your intro to React course. It's really easy to follow and understand.
Well, thanks, Sandy. Yeah, that's one thing. Like I don't know. It's one of those things that I have a little bit of imposter syndrome about because I'm not like the foremost expert on React. I hope that's not bursting anyone's bubble. But I do like to think that I can teach it well. And the fun thing about that course is I taught it on a whim. Connected with Pear a few years ago, was stuffed into my wife's tiny little walk-in closet, barely walk-in closet, but it's surrounded by clothes, and so it was the best place in the house to record. And so I was just sitting there, kind of cramped, typing in my small little space, working on this course. So I'm really glad that it's been such a success and it's helped so many people. And I'm really excited to re-record it, making a whole new update to that course.
Which brings me neatly to my next point, which is your next course on Scrimba. Yeah, tell us about that, Bob.
Yeah, spoiler, it's React. I'm going to be re-recording from scratch the entire intro to React, which will be free. We've partnered with Free Code Camp. It's going to be on Free Code Camp's YouTube channel, and it's going to be completely function-based, hooks-based from the beginning. So it's not class-based and then adding hooks on later. Hooks are prominent enough, and they're prominent enough now that it's just the way that it should be taught from the beginning. So I'm super excited to re-record it and get a brand new version out there for 2021.
Sounds great. Yeah. Do you know if you're going to use similar topics or new topics this time?
A little of both. I mean, the core concepts of React haven't changed, like understanding JSX, props, state, parent and child components, rendering, stuff like that. The concepts are all the same. So that will still be there. The approach is different. When before, the way I taught it was functional components all the way up until state and lifecycle methods. Whereas now I'll essentially, and I've got a little different approach and some philosophies that I'm going to introduce into this new course, but we'll go through the same essential topics. And then when we get to state, we will just use state. We'll use the state hooks and effect hooks. And so then the idea will be then to sort of provide a little bit of a feathering into the advanced course, the current advanced course, because that course does assume that you have taken the intro course, which taught classes. So I'm going to kind of feather into classes a little bit. And then when I'm done with the intro course, I'll be re-recording the advanced course with the assumption of the new initial course, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Wow, sounds very exciting. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too.
Vivek says, Bob, your React course helped me get a job. Now I can finally put food on my table. Thank you.
Nice. That's great. Yeah. Hopefully it's you'll have to send me some of that food.
Yeah, great. And you mentioned the advanced React course. And I have a question from Brenda Michelle here, which Marika from Discord also asked me to ask. And that is, after the advanced React course, what should you learn next? So what are the advanced React topics, basically?
Yeah, I saw that question, and the first thing I thought of was, if you don't have a job yet, then just focus on what you've learned. Like the stuff that I taught is ideally the topics that you need in order to get your first job. So rather than diving deeper and deeper and deeper into React, I would recommend that you just stick with those topics and start building really awesome stuff. That's probably my best advice. Now, assuming that's not your concern, there's a number of topics that you could dive into that I didn't really dive into. There's a few hooks that I missed. I didn't go into, intentionally missed. I didn't go into use reducer. You could probably go a lot deeper into use memo and use callback. There's a number of other a number of other hooks that you could go into, and then topics like really understanding and how to use compound components, performance, like how to test your React app's performance, and then how to fix any of those issues. They say that you shouldn't over optimize, like try to optimize perfectly without actually testing the performance. And then one that I just thought of now that's actually probably should be number one is testing, how to test your React apps, which I'm planning on including into my new course.
Great.
We'll see how that goes. Depends on my timeline.
Yeah, a lot of people ask for React testing, actually, so that would be good. Vivek asks, can we get a timeline for the updated course? I guess it might be a bit difficult to say, but do you have a vague idea?
I don't have a deadline yet, but I am working with Pear to set some of those milestones. So I will try to update the Discord when I have, and probably my Twitter when I have some of those milestones up, and I'm going to do my very best to hit those deadlines. So I guess like very ballpark. I'm hoping to have something released, probably within the next 2 months or so, but ideally something sooner.
Yeah, great. Sandy asks, will you teach Three.js?
Ooh, I know nothing about Three.js.
Neither do I. People talk about it. I never know what it is.
Yeah, maybe at some point. I've heard of it. I guess if I learn it well enough to teach it, then maybe. That's my answer.
Yeah, never say never. Yes.
Never say no.
Great stuff. So my next question is, you have been a Director of Education at V-School. You're now Head of Education at Scrimba. What have you seen that commonly makes people fail at coding? Is there anything we should avoid?
Ooh, I think the biggest thing that I've seen is when someone has a lack of reason or like purpose. At V-School, I used to interview all of the incoming students, and it would always raise kind of not a red flag, but it'd be like a warning sign for me when their reason for wanting to learn to code was because maybe a family member told them like, hey, you should do this because I do it. Or they said like, hey, I've heard there's good money in coding. And so that was like their reason for going to code. That was always kind of a warning sign for me. And I did find that students whose purpose was just to make money and not because they intrinsically enjoyed coding, they tended to struggle a lot more because they just didn't have like the drive, I guess. Not even drive. They just it didn't interest them, and so they didn't do it. Like people will tend toward the things that interest them, which is why it's really hard to form new habits sometimes. But if they didn't have that reason from the beginning, then that was probably one of the biggest reasons. I think another thing I saw a lot of was a lack of sort of, so to speak, skin in the game. We'd have like moms and dads whose families were riding on them succeeding, and they usually did really well because they had a lot riding on it. And then we had a number of students who, I mean, when I was at V-School, it's an expensive course. And so when they weren't paying for it, like maybe their parents were paying for it or something, a lot of times they struggled just because they didn't have the skin in the game. But I found much less of a correlation between something that you might call like a natural ability and their success, and a much stronger correlation between someone's grit, tenacity, and like the drive behind them that helped them succeed.
Interesting. Yeah.
Great
stuff. So I don't know if this is maybe the same question but opposite. What can make people succeed at coding? So essentially, you've mentioned having your family riding on it definitely helped. Is there anything else? If you don't have something like that, is there anything you can do to make your chances of success bigger?
Yeah, I think just being disciplined, even if you don't feel like a particularly disciplined person, just acting disciplined, like pretending to be disciplined. And what I mean by that is things like setting a schedule and sticking to it. Block off part of your calendar for learning to code. If you don't have a full-time job and you're learning to code to get a full-time job, then learning to code is your full-time job. Like 9 to 5. And I mean, take breaks and work on stuff. Don't just try to burn through material, but be doing something actively. Set your phone aside, remove distractions. There's tons of apps and browser extensions that will remove distractions for you. And tell your family or your roommates or whoever you're living with to like, don't bug me during this time. Just kind of doing those disciplined things, like shower every day. If you don't have a job, it's really easy to not get ready for the day, but your mind just works better if you do. And so just like being some of those discipline topics, I guess, really make a difference. And then build. Don't. Somebody mentioned, how do you avoid tutorial hell in the comments? and yeah, just be building stuff. One of the cool things that we're starting to do and that I'm going to be doing with this React course is self-assessment projects, where we will not be giving you the solution, which effectively removes those training wheels and makes it so that you have to think for yourself, like, can I do this or no? If you can't, then that's a sign that you're stuck in tutorial hell. And so hopefully these will help kind of break that mold out a little bit. So not being in tutorial hell, doing things yourself, building things, hands on the keyboard, that's going to be a great recipe for success.
On the topic of this, I've a few times had a problem where I was building something for this reason, and I find it quite easy to get into doing that. But then if I get a bug or something I can't do, I end up spending a lot of time on it. And then if I don't find the solution, I'm kind of stuck. And I've heard other people saying the same thing. What would you recommend in that case?
When you're stuck on a question, you just can't find the answer?
Not so much a question, but when you're building on your own and you get stuck and you kind of reach a roadblock.
Like, are you talking about like a technical roadblock? Like, you know what you want to accomplish, but you don't know how to accomplish it? Communities. I've found so much help. I've joined so many different Slack communities, a few different Discord communities, and it's amazing how many people are, like, at Scrimba, we've got community heroes that just seem, they're online, they answer lots of questions, they help people. It's amazing how many communities there are that have people just willing to help. And then if you're fortunate enough to live in a community, a local community that has a lot of developers, like I live in Salt Lake City, Utah, which for an outsider sounds like it's kind of in the boonies, but it's actually one of the tech hub spots of the world. And there's meetups and a really thriving JavaScript community, Java community, Python community, all of which have their own Slack and Discord channels. So just asking your questions there, you're most likely going to get help. Sometimes people will even like set up a call with you to walk you through it. It's really amazing.
Yeah, I had someone help me the other day, actually. Learned something new about Z-index. Very nice.
Nice. Yeah, and I would even turn to those communities before I turn to Stack Overflow to ask a question on Stack Overflow. I mean, I would search for it, on Google and look at answers on Stack Overflow. But if I'm not finding anything there, I would rather turn to a community like on Slack than to post my own question on Stack Overflow.
Oh, definitely. We all know what happens with those. Yes, lovely. So several questions coming in. Ooh, this is an interesting one. Do you think React is hard to go on, or is it easy to learn? And should I have a go at it?
Ooh, I don't have a whole lot of comparison, like anything to compare it to. I think React is a lot easier to build websites in than interactive websites in than like pure HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. But you certainly should learn JavaScript well before you start React. You don't have to be a world-renowned expert or be paid writing JavaScript to know it well enough. But you definitely need to know a good amount of JavaScript before you start React.
Yeah, definitely.
If you know that, then yes, start React. It's fun.
I mean, how well are we really talking here? Do you think completing Pear's Intro to React course would be enough? Or do you need a bit more than that?
If by completing you mean doing all the exercises, challenges, and projects, then yes.
Yeah.
Just watching them alone, no.
Yeah.
You have to do the challenges and the exercises. And eventually, when we add in the self-assessments, you have to be able to pass those self-assessments.
Yeah.
But you don't have to know a lot of the, I guess, like deep down parts of JavaScript. Even like paradigms, coding styles, things like functional programming, closures, some of those topics I would consider more understanding perfectly, like this object creation, object.create, prototypes. There's a lot that you can go into in JavaScript that you don't necessarily need to be like an expert on in order to start React. I didn't learn it that way, and it was fine. I learned things like let, constant var, how to use objects, methods, functions, callback functions, promises, and other ES6 kind of syntactical things like arrow functions and whatnot. That's probably good enough to get you into React as long as you understand those topics.
Good to know. I can't find it now, but there was a question which basically was asking, should I still learn about classes, or are they kind of gone enough that I don't need to worry about them?
Ooh, that's a good question. Yes, you should learn about classes. I don't know that that needs to be a barrier before you learn React. Yeah, I'm gonna say no, but it kind of hurts me a little bit to say that because I really like the concept. I like understanding the concept of classes. I had a lot of fun learning about classes. I've taught about classes in the past. I've taught classes about classes in the past, and they're really fun when you understand it. It like brings a lot of aha moments about JavaScript, but I don't think that they will get you closer to getting a job as a web developer than learning functional React. So I'm going to say that's going to be bumped kind of a little bit later.
Yeah. Tom Chant says, I would rather go through the fires of hell before posting my own question on Stack Overflow. Yeah, completely agree.
It can be scary. As long as you adhere to the basic time, I mean, don't say like, what's wrong with my code? But as long as you adhere to the basic tenets of Stack Overflow, then it can be fine. I have a lot of posts on Stack Overflow that have helped a lot of people. Oftentimes it's me asking a question and then answering my own question later when I figure out the answer somewhere else. I'll even have comments that say like, thanks for coming back and updating this. It's like really helpful to the community. So it's like Twitter. It's got a toxic side and it's got a nice side.
Yeah. I suppose you could, if you had a problem and found the answer, you could post the question and then the answer. I don't know if that's against the rules. Don't hold me on that one.
No, yes. You can. They recommend that.
Ah, great.
Yeah.
But if you already knew it before you even asked the question,
yeah,
I guess, yeah, why not?
Yeah, it even says that on there somewhere.
Probably the safest way. Wet Sand asks, when will there be another JavaScript cohort? I can answer that. Well, I can't actually answer that. The current one is ending this week, and this was an experimental one. So, yeah, we're going to assess how it went. It seems like it went pretty well, and then make a decision based on that. So, yes, we will be sending out correspondence as soon as we have decided. Yeah. Ooh. Pavan asks, will your new course cover React Native?
No, the new course won't cover React Native. Knowing React will be a really good intro to React Native. Once you know React for the web, going to React Native is sort of a syntactical change. A lot of pre-built components. You're not working with the DOM, so you have different elements that you're using. But because it doesn't get our students at Scrimba closer to getting a job as web developers, I won't be covering that. Now, I have talked to Pear about what some good, not extracurricular, sort of continuing education topics might be, so that when students finish the front-end developer career path, they have additional topics that they can continue to learn and branch out. React Native could potentially be one of those, but at the current, there's no plan for React Native. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sounds like it will. The React course will help with anyone who wants to learn it, though.
Yeah, so. Definitely. So if you learn React, there's plenty of tutorials out there that will help you transition from React to React Native.
Cool. Gabriel says, Bob, very important question. I know async await very well, but my promises are somewhat weak. Should I backtrack?
Ooh, yes. Yeah, I think it's I think it's important. I mean, in the API module, I teach about callbacks, then promises, and then I touch on async await. I would say it's a good thing to know because you will still run into those very frequently. It's not like certain topics in JavaScript that just no one uses anymore, so you don't really need to learn it.
Yeah.
Callbacks are ubiquitous, promises are ubiquitous, and then async await is just, it's 2 levels removed, right? The concept of callbacks is kind of core JavaScript. Promises are built on top of callbacks. They're just sort of a syntactic sugar. And then async await is syntactic sugar on top of promises. So I would say, yes, go learn about those things. Hopefully you'll be able to then like connect that bridge and it'll just make sense a little quicker.
Worth going over, definitely. Yeah. Kevin Black makes the point that we shouldn't compare ourselves with established tech companies when we're building on our own. Yeah, that's where technical burnout comes from. They have hundreds of coders, and we are just one person. Absolutely right, Kevin Black.
So does that mean comparing the projects that you build to something like Twitter or Facebook? I mean, we talk a lot about making a Twitter clone or a Facebook clone, but yeah, I mean, let's be honest. So there's even comparing yourself with one of those developers that's been developing for 15 or 20 years doesn't make sense. It's like, you know, like let's say I'm a beginner piano player. I'm not going to compare myself to someone who's a concert pianist because they've put in the hours and the time. Let alone like hundreds of developers building an awesome product. Yeah.
You can, however, compare yourself to me. I have created a social media site, Cat Basket, social media for cats, which is this week's weekly web dev challenge. So that's a nice plug there. Yes. Nice. It's not with React, but you actually could do it with React. I think someone is. They mentioned in Discord. So yeah, I actually think this would be a good project for React. Nice. Come along and make a cat social media site. That would be lovely to see.
Awesome.
Yeah. Gabriel is asking, should I learn Three.js first or React? I ultimately want to learn both in the future.
Maybe someone needs to help me understand Three.js. I always thought of, is Three.js a like a data visualization, or am I thinking of D3?
I think that's D3.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Three.js. Is it an animation library?
I don't know. Let's have a look. 3.js.
A 3D library. So it just depends on your goals, right? Like if you are a designer and you want to be building, I guess more like on the artistic side, then Three.js is probably going to serve you better than React. If you're interested more on the logic side and building web applications, then React is going to help you a lot more than Three.js. So it's just hard to compare. They're two completely different libraries. And so it just depends on your goal.
Totally. And what you could do is have a look at some job adverts which you find interesting and see what they're asking for.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah. On the topic of this, eBay says, what career path can one build with React? Wow. So obviously developer advocate, teacher like Bob. Any others?
I guess once you get into React Native, it could be touching into the mobile realm. Mobile development.
Those are things. I was trying to think of a React pun then, but I haven't got one. Yeah.
I guess entrepreneur, if you want to build your own site with React, but you're more interested in the product itself, then
yeah, you can build Cat Basket for real.
Yeah, build it for real, and then bring Leanne on as your CMO.
As my advocate. Yeah, that'd be great. LMD asks, will you touch on React version 18 in your new course, Bob?
I do hope to. I'm trying to strategically decide what topics are important to include that will help people get hired. And React Suspense and some other 18 topics have been floating around for a long time, but they're not not released. They're not really a part of the community yet. And so although it hurts me to I guess, ignore some parts of React, some of them are just not all that helpful to getting you a job. And that's kind of my main focus.
Yeah.
So I'm deciding now if some topics like React suspense are things that I want to cover or not. If so, it would likely be in the advanced React course, not the brand new one.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Rocky Cool Dude asks, when is Scrimba planning to do Node.js? Loosely speaking, this year, we hope. Yes. We will be shouting it from the rooftops when Node is available on Scrimba, because we're all looking forward to that. Yeah.
It's a trickier problem than I think a lot of people realize because Scrimba runs on the web and Node runs on a server or on your local server, your own computer, but it's not web-based. So it's a tricky problem. And Sindra, the CTO, he's a genius, and he's somehow figuring it out how to run Node in the browser. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, seriously cool. Looking forward to that. Yeah. Oh, Florian asks, will you update the course once React server components come off?
I am not familiar with React server components. I hope that doesn't make me seem too naive, but
server components. Oh, crikey. Is this what he means?
It looks like
Zero
it.
bundle size React server components.
I will have to look into this and let you know.
Yeah.
It sounds like it has to do with server-side rendering of React, like something that I think Next.js does. So I'll have to look into it. The way that I choose what to put into the curriculum is usually based on what I hear from hiring managers are topics that they actually want students to know. So if that's not something that students want to know, then I oftentimes won't include it. Yeah, so like I said, it hurts sometimes to not talk about some of the interesting or fun sides of React, but if they were included and distracted from the topics that help people get a job, then I usually don't include them. I will do more research, Florian. I'll do some more research on React server components and maybe talk to my community and see how useful they would be to know.
Sounds good. How about Redux? Steve, there's any plans for a course about Redux? I think it's mentioned in the advanced one, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I have a whole section on Redux.
Yeah.
I kind of touch on. I mean, anyone who's taken it knows that it's kind of a cursory look at Redux. I haven't decided about that, although I have been thinking about it. I personally haven't used Redux in a long time, but I know that a lot of jobs, and I from what I understand, especially a lot of jobs outside of the United States, are oftentimes still asking for Redux. So I need to do my research on that and decide if that's something I'm going to include. Again, it would likely be included in my remake of the advanced course, not the intro course.
Good to know. A couple of people are asking whether context is now a better choice for state management across a large scalable project rather than Redux.
Yeah, I think that's a very common question in the community. There's certainly plenty of businesses that I've talked to, or people working at companies that I've talked to, where they have chosen context as their large scalable way of doing state management. And then there's other options as well. State machines, like I don't know anything about state machines, but I know that they were popular about a year ago. I don't know if they still are. But there's other options. I feel fairly confident that context can handle scale pretty well. But I guess I don't have any research to back that up. So don't hold me to that. That'll probably be a part of my work with my research. I do think that companies they're usually willing to teach you some things. They don't necessarily, unless they're looking to you as like a mid to senior developer. They usually understand when you don't know every piece of their stack, because every company has a slightly different stack.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I'll take that into account.
Yeah. And Anna Gemba is asking how much you need to know about JavaScript before you go to React. We mentioned this earlier already. We came to the conclusion that basically, if you have done this course on Scrimba, which is free, and learnt the material well, you'll probably be okay to start React. So I hope that helps. Yes. On to the next question. Oh, yes. Hassan, this is an interesting one. I'm going to be in module 11, React Basics, soon. So that is actually your free React course, basically. This part of it is. Hassan is wondering, would you recommend waiting for the new course or just continue with this one?
I mean, I think any amount of learning that you do is going to be beneficial. You're not going to, as long as you're doing the challenges and studying it up, like, you will just know more. Again, I try not to think of the front-end developer career path as like a 0 to 100%, and then the closer you get to 100%, the more likely you are to get a job. Because in reality, the more practice and projects you build, the more likely you are to get a job. And so just burning through the material. I'm not saying Hassam is doing this. This is me just getting on my soapbox. but burning through the material is a lot more harmful. It feels right, but it is actually wrong. Yeah. So I would say just start. In honesty, the beginning of the React Basics course is all functional components up until I get to state anyway. So that's all going to be very similar. And then when you come back and rewatch the new one that I'm making, you'll just be that much more ahead.
Great advice. Yes. Yeah. I have one question for you, which is, you are, I don't think I've made a banner for it. That's annoying. Anyway, you're famous for teaching React, but do you really prefer it to Vue and Angular?
Ooh, yeah. I haven't done enough Vue, and certainly not enough Angular to be unbiased, I guess. I did Angular 1. That was like one of the first things I learned was Angular 1 a number of years ago, and I like React way more than Angular 1, but that's not a fair comparison. Yeah, from what I've seen of Vue, it reminds me of a crossover between Angular 1 and React. So it looks great. I can't speak at all to modern Angular. I know nothing about it really. But yeah, because I know React's the best, I probably will stick with React. I then will probably branch out into, like, play around with Vue and Svelte, I think, before I ever went to Angular. I like the React. Well, again, the reason I choose React is because it's hireable, and it's what I'm teaching people. I'm teaching people to get a job, and so React is going to be the best path currently to do that. When I was at vSchool, we were constantly not only asking the community, but doing nationwide job searches to find out even just the number of jobs in Angular 1 versus the number of jobs in React. And as soon as the number of jobs in React surpassed the number of jobs available in Angular 1, we switched our curriculum. So unless Vue suddenly has more jobs than React, which, to be frank, I don't think is going to happen anytime soon, I'll probably just be recommending React to people, because my audience is job seekers more so than curious developers. Yeah.
So I hope that answers this question. What's the main difference between React, Angular, or Vue? Yeah, with Vue, all I know about Vue is that you type the letter V a lot and a hyphen.
Yeah, there's like some directives. So like in React, when you want to loop over an array and render components, you just you do it in pure JavaScript using something like map, and then create an array of JSX elements, which is not pure JavaScript, so to speak. And then you render those. With something like Vue, the part that reminds me of Angular 1 is you actually put into your markup, like, I'm going to start a for loop now, and then it will loop over your array and render the following components, that many times. I think it's v-4, but maybe someone who knows Vue can correct me. v-if. Those things remind me a lot of Angular 1. And that's about the extent of my knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's bigger than my knowledge, that's for sure. Yes. We had a question from the Discord community. What can you tell us about React Flux?
Not much. Flux. My understanding of this might be something different. My understanding of Flux was that it was sort of a precursor to Redux, or it was it was sort of where Redux began. If this is the Flux I'm thinking of, which is actually by now relatively old, Flux,
could be.
I think Facebook was having an issue where their notifications, their little notification was always saying that you had more notifications, and even if you clicked on them, it wasn't updating correctly, and so they created the Flux kind of ecosystem that has to do with reducers and actions and dispatcher and whatnot, as a way to have global state. And then I think Redux was kind of like a rebuild of Flux, and then Redux happened to catch on a little more.
Yeah,
I hope that's right. That's what I have known from the past, but I haven't heard much about Flux in a long time.
Yeah,
I mean, it looks like this page was updated in 2014. So
yeah, I don't think we need to worry too much about Flux. Yes, I had a question, and that is, what would you change about React if you had a chance?
I'm not good enough to change React. I don't know. I don't know enough about. I'm not a good enough developer to offer suggestions for changes to React. I guess I could, that's not to say people can't contribute to the React library, but I personally don't know the inner workings of React well enough, which maybe is outing myself a little bit, to say this is what I would change. So yeah, I don't know. I bet someone who is really into Vue would probably have a lot of opinions about how they might change React. Yeah. Because my world has been React for so many years, I think I'm too much in a bubble to offer a good opinion on that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Very diplomatic. Anna Jemba asks, is React and React Native the same language, irrespective of use case?
I mean, it's all JavaScript. So JavaScript is the language. React and React Native. If you've done React, you know that you render things to the DOM using React DOM. With React Native, you're not interacting with a web document object model. But the concepts are essentially the same. And the syntax is slightly different, but learning React will certainly help you learn React Native. And I think you could also just start off with React Native if you already know that's where you want to go.
Yeah. Michael R says, OMG, I remember that bug. It used to drive me nuts.
Yeah, it used to drive me nuts too. And somebody mentioned it still happens with Messenger, and it happens all the time with Messenger for me. I get a notification I'll get the little red bubble on my iPhone that says I have exactly two messages in Messenger, and I open it and there's nothing new, and then the notification goes away. So clearly they're still struggling with this problem from 5 years ago.
How annoying. I don't think I've had this problem. I have had it on Airbnb where I have a notification
all the time.
Yeah, I can't get rid of it because I can't open the message because I cancelled some trip or something, and that means I can't open this message. So Airbnb people, if you're watching.
We host, this room is actually on the weekends. We use it as an Airbnb, and I have the same problems. I think it's so funny that a lot of people look to Airbnb. I can't speak to this because I've never talked to the Airbnb team or anything, but Airbnb is oftentimes looked to as one of the thought leaders in React, and then I laugh every time their website or their app breaks for me. But
Yeah,
I know what they're doing is very hard, so I can't really say anything.
that's true. Yeah. That's an interesting one. The impact of Copilot for upcoming web developers. A lot of people are talking about this. Are web developers going to be, replaced by robots, basically? Have you tried Copilot yet, Bob?
I haven't tried it. I'm interested to try it, and I think it's fun, kind of like fun in the same way that watching like a drama-filled TV show is fun to see all the drama that's going on behind Copilot and GitHub right now. But no, I haven't used it. I don't know enough about it to have an opinion. I think that every industry evolves, and so it doesn't seem unlikely that web development, especially for a group of people who are so focused on automation, it doesn't seem unlikely that something like web development will become obsolete eventually, especially with the prevalence of no-code options out there. But yeah, I just don't know. I don't have a strong opinion about it.
Yeah. Michael R. has tried it. This Michael. He said he wanted to center a div. That's something he never wants to do himself. So he asked Copilot to do it, and it started bringing in jQuery and doing all sorts of wacky things. So I don't think we need to worry just yet, basically. We've got a while before the machines take over. Tom Chant. Leanne, when are you going to do some live React for the Friday live coding? Yes. Good question. Hopefully soon, but I do need to brush up on my React. I must confess. It's been a while, but hopefully I can use Bob's new course.
Yeah, just take the new course.
That would be great. Will React sharpen your JavaScript since it's a library to JS, says Gabriel.
Yes, I still recommend being fairly sharp in your JavaScript beforehand, but one thing that React will help do is solidify reasons to use some of that JavaScript. I remember thinking that topics like map and reduce and filter were scary and really hard to understand. And it wasn't until I really dove into React that the reason to use those started to make more sense to me. And then I found tons of reasons to use them outside of React. But yeah, I believe that React will help sharpen your JavaScript skills. Class-based React, probably even more so, but I still wouldn't recommend starting with classes in React. But learning class-based React helped me understand things like prototypes, the prototype chain, object creation, the this keyword, and stuff like that.
Yeah. Cool. Danosh Palachi asks for the requirements for a fresher front-end web developer. So React, by the sounds of it, JS, HTML and CSS. What else would you say, Bob?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, those are good. Learning Jamstack, I think, can be super helpful. Gatsby or Next.js or both, and then choosing a CMS and learning how to make a CMS send data to, or how to have Gatsby or Next pull data from a CMS, create a static site, intermixing static and hydrated React sites, stuff like that would all be really beneficial. I rebuilt the vSchool website in Gatsby, in the Jamstack using Gatsby, and it was an awesome learning experience. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, cool. Matt Coda with K. Do you plan to introduce a backend course? We do plan that, hopefully this year. So watch this space. Yes. James Marriott says, React has helped me learn more JavaScript, breaking stuff and realizing the fix was just pure JS, not React. Interesting. Yeah. Christina. Dear Bob, your React course on Scrimba totally saved me and my semester grade last year and helped me to learn so much. So I just wanted to say I'm forever thankful. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, thanks for saying that. I really like getting messages especially when it's someone who's like in a boot camp and they're not understanding their boot camp's curriculum, and so they like turned to React, and that always gives me the warm fuzzies. I love that.
Yeah, totally. Yuri says, do you think maths or arithmetics is a necessity for JavaScript in general or for advanced only? Yeah.
No, so the reason a lot of outsiders think that you have to be really good at math to be a developer, there are development fields that require really intense math. So let me just say that. For web development, they cross over in their problem-solving strategies. Solving a math problem like you did in school uses the same steps as solving a coding challenge or any kind of like real-world challenge that you run into with web development. So no, you don't have to be good at math or arithmetic to learn JavaScript or be good at JavaScript. In that sense, like they don't really cross paths, but you do have to be a good problem solver. And being good at math tends to lead to being good at coding because of the problem solving aspect, the ability to like understand a problem, break it down into its parts, come up with the solution, execute your solution, and then look back and find the, like if there's any improvements that you can make. It's the same for math and for coding.
Yeah, good point. Florian says, should we teach more TypeScript? I feel there's a lot of demand on the market. Probably, yes. We have a TypeScript course in the making. Hopefully it will be ready soon. So yeah, it will be an introduction to TypeScript, about 4 hours long, I think. Yeah, awesome. So keep an eye out for that one. Yes. One question I would love to ask you, Bob, is how do you feel about CSS?
CSS feels like one of those industries that hasn't been disrupted yet. I mean, like before Uber came along, like taxis was the only way people knew how to get someone else to drive for them. And then when Uber comes along or Lyft comes along, it's like, oh, this could be so much better than it was. And CSS kind of feels like that. I don't have a strong opinion for or against CSS because it's the only option out there.
Yeah,
I think that it can be fun to problem solve with design and CSS. But some might say the fact that I have to problem solve just to put something at the right place on the screen maybe isn't, that's an indicator that it could be better. But I kind of like problem solving using CSS until I don't, until I can't figure it out, and then I just get frustrated.
Yeah.
But what's nice is that they're always updating CSS. I mean, there are new things coming to CSS that are helpful, and so I think that's kind of nice that it's not just like a 1990s technology that stuck around. It's actually improving.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. James says, Bob/Leanne, a data visualization course using React and D3 would be really cool. The one on Free Code Camp is good, but it could be great to have an interactive Scrimba option. There is a D3 course on Scrimba. I don't think it's got React in it, though. I don't know offhand. But yeah, if you search Scrimba D3, you can check it out. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Gary Truck is studying with a Pro-Scrimba membership full-time and giving it 100%, enough to realistically land a job within 6 to 8 months.
That's a good question. It just depends on the person.
Yeah.
Like the one thing that's really nice. So the company that I worked for before, vSchool, they're a boot camp. I helped them transition away from a cohort-based model, like a 12-week model, to a more asynchronous model, which is very similar to the front-end developer career path. The benefit of doing that is that some students who need extra time can take the extra time, and students who maybe have prior experience or just kind of get it, they can move through it a little quicker. The most important thing is that you understand things every step of the way, and not that you get done with it. Not knowing Gary Truck personally, it just depends. I bet some students, like some of our most advanced students at vSchool, would get through, or have gotten through the new asynchronous content faster than 12 weeks and have done awesome. Other students have taken more like 6 to 8 months to complete it and then do awesome. Like the point is that you learn the skill. It's not like the traditional classroom model of your butt in a chair. Like that's not how, that alone is not learning. So I bet, and you're also talking about landing a job, not just finishing the curriculum, because there's so much more involved with that, building projects, networking, interviewing. I mean, there's some places that take 6 to 8 months just to hire their people. So, so it's hard to say. 6 to 8 months does feel a little ambitious. I would be more comfortable saying something like 9 to 18 months. But that's mostly just me covering my butt.
Yeah, I think it was Danny Thompson on Twitter a few days ago said something along the lines of, he's got a colleague who took a year to learn to code and another colleague who took 6 years. They've both got the job title developer. So for me, it doesn't matter how long it takes to get there. And it takes everyone a different amount of time.
Yeah, and obviously what people are interested to know is that it's not going to take them 6 years of 100% of their full time to get another job. So yeah, and the other thing to remember is that there's a lot of different entry points into becoming a developer that don't necessarily start with being a junior React developer or whatnot. You can go into QA, even if it's manual QA, and start working your way in a team. Continuing to learn while you're also getting paid, doing something within the realm of development.
Yeah, absolutely. Gabriel says, should we focus heavily on data algorithms and data structures for coding interviews? It seems they care more about that than the actual front-end projects.
Yeah, my experience locally here in Utah is that a lot of companies are actually moving away from the data algorithm whiteboarding challenges because they're recognizing that isn't leading to better hires. So I can't speak even outside of Utah too much, especially not internationally. But I personally have kind of a beef with people who ask you to write crazy, tree shaking algorithms in a junior web dev position about JavaScript, because that's not something you'll ever do in your job. And it's always fun to read people who actually respond to those kinds of questions saying like, is this a part of the job? Why are you interviewing me this way if that's not part of the job?
Yeah.
But I would say no. I would say focus your craft on building cool things. And if you build cool enough stuff, you will convince people to hire you. From what the people I've talked to say that especially for junior developers, they're most interested in like, are you a cool person to even talk with and be around? Are you able to learn new things? And the inability to write intense algorithms doesn't deter them too much. But it just, I'm sure it depends on the company.
If it does, it might be
it's probably not
a high pressure place to work in, let's say.
It's probably not the job you want to be at. That's important too, to remember when you're interviewing places, is it's more like dating. You don't go on a date just trying to convince the other person to like you. You want to like them too. And so when you're looking for work, you have to enjoy working there. You're just, you're not going to like your life.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I sounded very enthusiastic with that one. I was thinking about a past job, not this job. I just want to specify that. Brad Rivenberg says, I second that. Just landed a front-end React job without touching DSNA in the interview.
Nice. Well done.
I'm sure that the company I'm applying for will interview me on data structure. Should I still not prepare? Well, no. I guess if you're sure you're going to be interviewed on it, then
you should prepare.
You should prepare.
There's a really great book that that I'd recommend to everyone interested in learning to. Actually, I'd recommend it to any developer. Called Grokking Algorithms. It costs a couple bucks, but it's the best learning resource that I've found on learning algorithms and data structures.
Michael has this book. I am familiar with it. It's been on his bedside table before. He said it was quite a good read, actually.
Very good.
Yes, check that one out.
And it's fun. It's like data structures and algorithms sound super boring, but this book is actually fun to read through. It's got cool, like fun animations, and it just explains the topic, the complex topic, much better than anything else I've seen. Honestly, I haven't seen a lot, but this one is awesome. Michael
said that as well. That it was a very interesting read. Yes. So that, amazingly, is already all we have time for.
Wow, time flies.
It does. Yes. Thank you for coming, Bob. It was lovely to have you here. And if you have not had enough Leanne for one day, which I'm sure you all have, but just in case, I will be hopping over to my personal channel for another live stream in 2 minutes' time after I have eaten some cashews. I will be doing a CSS battle. This one, right here. So if you would like to watch that, come along and see how inept I am with CSS and maybe help me out. That would be great. Yes. Well, thanks again for coming, Bob, and I'll catch you soon.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited. And everyone look out for the new course.
Definitely. Yes, we will be sending out emails when it's ready. Yes. Okay. Bye for now.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.